Are you too busy? Too stressed out? Unhealthy? Then this is the place for you. Welcome to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals, where we help you create wellness and balance with a holistic approach that will work for you, even with the busiest of schedules, so you can live the life you want. And now, here's your host, Diane Randall.
Hello and welcome to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals. Today's episode is all about mindful eating. Mindfulness is a term that means you are paying attention and bringing your thoughts and awareness to what you eat in the present moment. But I've invited a special guest on today's episode to talk to you about what mindful eating means, and also to give you her 5 essential steps to mindful eating. I'm so excited to introduce Alison Ozgur. She works for the T. Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies as an online plant-based instructor and is a registered dietitian, nutritionist, registered yoga teacher, certified meditation teacher, and a public speaker. She is also co-author of the plant-based nutrition and fitness book, Go Beyond Good. Healthy eating and balanced nutrition are considered the foundation for optimal health, but chances are you may be missing an important piece to the wellness puzzle. Have you ever heard of the term mindfulness? Do you know how to practice mindful eating? My awesome guest, Alison Ozgur, is here today. Alison works for the T. Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies as an online plant-based nutrition instructor. Alison has an extensive background in the health and wellness field as a registered dietitian, nutritionist. She's a registered yoga teacher, certified meditation teacher, and public speaker. She is also the co-author of the plant-based nutrition and fitness book, Go Beyond Good, and volunteers as a guest lecturer for staff wellness classes at a community college. Wow, Alison. You are all about nutrition, and that is so wonderful. So how are you?
Thank you. I'm good, Diane. How are you doing?
I'm good. Welcome to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals. I am really happy that you're here to share with us about what we can do about mindful eating. How can we bring mindful eating into our lives? So I'm just grateful that you were able to come on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me.
And I want to ask you, how did you start this journey to nutrition?
Well, I've been a registered dietitian for about 15 years now. When I was in college, I kind of fumbled between different majors. Do I want to go into nursing? Do I want to go into business? And it wasn't really until I met a dietitian that used to work for Kellogg's, because I went to school in Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is right outside of Battle Creek, Michigan. And I had met a dietitian that worked for Kellogg's, and I thought, this is an interesting field, because with nutrition, you can take it anywhere, whether it's corporate or clinical or community. There's so many variations of it. So that's what really set me on the path to becoming a dietitian. So yeah, I've had a lot of different opportunities, and now with incorporating this mindfulness piece is fairly new, because this isn't something dietitians learn in their traditional curriculum. So it's been a great journey.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, the first time I ever heard the word mindfulness was back in 2003 or 4 when I bought Jon Kabat-Zinn's CD on mindfulness for stress, because I was trying to find ways to bring down my stress level. But I tell you, it's an absolutely great concept to apply to food. So I want you to tell us, what is mindfulness, first of all, and how we can apply it to our food?
Great question. Well, mindfulness is really being in the present moment. It's not focusing on the past or the future. It's being right here, right now in the present moment, such as me talking to you right now. And it's also being in the mindful or present moment with non-judgment. That's one of the very important pieces of mindfulness, is just being kind to yourself and not beating yourself up, and just being present for what's going on right now. And it works really well with eating, because I think a lot of times when we eat, we tend to just shovel the food in our mouth and we're not even thinking, what does it taste like? What does it smell like? What does it, feel like in our mouth? So with mindfulness, it really brings you in tune with what you're eating, and also in addition to what you're cooking. If you're cooking, let's say you're cutting up tomatoes, are you thinking about the color of the tomato? Are you feeling the texture? Are you smelling the tomato? So it really puts you in the present moment right here, right now, which is basically the only thing we have, and the only thing we have control over is the present moment.
You're absolutely correct. And my audience are busy professionals, and I can tell you firsthand who has time to slow down when you're busy and think about what you eat.
Yes. Yes, it's a challenge.
So tell us how we can become more mindful.
Well, I think one of the first things, and one of the most important things, is really to choose your food wisely. As you know, I've majored and really studied plant-based nutrition for about the last 6 years when I decided to go plant-based and then starting working for Dr. Campbell's organization. And when I say choose foods wisely, what I mean is choose foods that really nourish your body and, of course, nurture animals since we're going plant-based, but to really focus on those foods that are made the way nature intended, which means cutting out processed food, refined foods, decreasing your sugar. I mean, these are all things that we already have heard of in the news, but we really want to be conscientious of reading food labels. I mean, some foods out there, I do a presentation and I talk a lot about food additives and what is sodium hexametaphosphate and things like that, things people can't even pronounce. So it really comes to, you need to be a good detective and really be conscientious of what you're putting into your body because, like Jack LaLanne said, a body is like a bank account. What you put into it today is going to show up for many years down the road. So we want to be conscientious of foods, what I call nutritionally enhanced foods. And that's some of the artificial sugars that are out there where they're adding antioxidants to artificial sugars. They're adding calcium and vitamin D and fiber to cookies. And so these things that are touting important vitamins and nutrients that we need, but disguising it in the form of like an Oreo cookie. So it really becomes important. The first step is really be conscientious of what you're putting in your body. And I think most importantly are these food additives and the processed food, the refined food. There's just so much, I don't want to say junk, but it's kind of what we're putting into our body.
Let's call a thing a thing. It's junk.
Yeah, that's not, yeah, exactly.
Well, what is so, I think, what's so important more than ever is I hear what you say, is that we have to be conscientious because I feel the food is getting even worse. And it's so, the preservatives and all those things that aren't good for our health are hidden in that and under terms like natural and healthy. So it's so disguised that you really have to be mindful to read the labels, to understand that you may not even be eating food. Yeah. It's a food-like product. Okay.
Yeah, food-like substances, exactly.
So I think it's really scary at a time when healthcare is really expensive. Lots of people are on different medications, and I really feel that we have to take our health in our own hands, and the first line of attack is what we're eating.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Empower the patient and empower the client. I always say that. It's, you need to be your own advocate for your healthcare. Exactly.
So if someone's listening and they're not aware, they're not mindful, let's say tomorrow morning they wanted to start a new life with looking at how they could be mindful of what they're eating. Can you walk us through those steps that we'd have to look at?
Yeah, and I think the first thing is really when you go to make whatever it is that you're cooking, let's say for breakfast, when you're picking up that box of, let's say, cereal, that's the most general one. Really, before you look at the calories and the fat and the sugar and all of that, just go ahead and look at the ingredients first. And when you're seeing things like sodium hexametaphosphate and words that you can't pronounce and a whole list of ingredients, that's one that really needs to be put back on the shelf and just left there. Versus when you take a bag of, let's say, organic whole grain oatmeal, and the only ingredients is oatmeal. So it really comes down to looking at the foods that are really minimally processed with the least amount of preservatives. So that's really the first step. And even things like you were saying that are touted as natural or organic, like say a fruit juice. When we pick up a fruit juice, yes, we need to look at that label as well, because it may just be orange juice, but then they're adding in other things, or with peanut butter or almond butter, things like that. So there are a lot of good, solid foods out there. And almond butter is a great example. If you pick up a jar of almond butter, you want it to say almonds. No added sugar, no added palm oil, no added salt, anything like that, just almonds. So that's really, I would say, the first step to making it. And then also choose foods that don't have a label. Obviously, oranges, fruits and vegetables and things like that, they don't even have a label. So that's even a better way to go.
Exactly. I've been plant-based for the past 8 years.
Good.
And I always look at as close to plant-based as possible, actually raw and a little cooked, because it's so darn confusing as to what is healthy and not healthy. So I don't want to go through a whole lot when I eat. Okay. I actually went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and that's when I became even more aware of what I was eating and what I thought was healthy, what carried the healthy name. So I really became more mindful and awake, I say, at that time. But for people who don't want to go to school to learn how to eat, it's just so important that I always encourage a plant-based diet. And tell us about the T-colon program that you teach. You teach everyday people how to eat, or what food is about.
Yeah. Dr. Campbell's program it's a 6-week nutrition course, and it's two week segments. So it's actually 3 different courses, 2 weeks long. And so what it is it's set up for anybody, really. They do allow doctors and nurses and dietitians and pharmacists to get continuing education credits. So a lot of the focus is on the science behind it. It's not so much the day-to-day, how do I start a plant-based diet tomorrow? It's more of the science. But I feel that is really an important piece, because if you're going to move into a diet change, you need to know why you're doing it, not just because it's a fad or something that everybody's doing. So it's a great course, and there's so much information. And if you ever read the China study, which I highly recommend, it's very, very strong science-based. And it Forks Over Knives, the DVD, it picks up a lot of pieces from the China study. So if you don't want it too intense, you can just watch Forks Over Knives. But the course is great if you really want to know why you should go plant-based, if you want to see the science behind it. It's not just something that, it's like, oh, this is cool, I should do it now. So yeah, it's a great, great course.
And if you're not interested, or you feel you don't have the time to take the course, what I hear you saying is there are documentaries that you can look at online to help you to understand why you might want to go plant-based versus a traditional American diet. But I really feel that many people really understand on some level why, what they're eating and what it's doing to them at this point, especially if you're middle-aged. You're already feeling the symptoms of a lifetime of a traditional American diet.
Yeah, and if you have a motivation and inspiration on why you want to do it, I mean, if your goal is to get off your medications, if your goal is to, lose weight, live longer, see your kids graduate from school, I mean, once you find your passion and your purpose on why you want to do it, I think that really pushes people further along. Because as you know, you've been in the field, when somebody may start something, try it for a few weeks, oh, okay, yeah, this is good, and then move on to something else. And I really feel with plant-based nutrition that it's forever. It's a lifestyle. It's not a diet or a fad. It's something that you'll see the results instantly, just in your vitality, the way your skin, the way you feel, the way your skin looks, has that youthfulness, which is always a plus for us middle-aged women.
Exactly.
But so when you start to see the results, I think that keeps people motivated, because, in this culture, we want results. I mean, we're a results-driven culture. So Yeah.
We are results driven culture, but I also believe that once you become mindful and you wake up, you recognize that you have all the tools. You don't need a diet plan. You don't need surgery. If you follow a plant-based diet, in my opinion, because my experience was, the weight loss became a byproduct of just trying to eat healthy every day with a plant-based diet. And I took it day by day.
Yes, absolutely. When I've done a lot of nutrition counseling, and everyone's goal is to lose weight, and I said, my goal for you is to gain health. And they say, okay, well, I want to lose weight. And I said, well, losing weight is a byproduct of gaining health. And you gain health in all areas, with stress management and, physical activity. And so, there's so many pieces to it.
And what I've found, and this is just my experience, is I used to exercise like a crazy woman, 2 hours a day when I was really burdening myself with guilt about what I was eating. And what I realized was that the food was most of it. Once I changed and once I became more mindful, the food was most of it. And the exercise, it's important, but it certainly didn't weigh as much as the food. And when I changed the way I ate, everything changed. Everything changed, and for the better. But working out, because that's in our culture, that's what we're taught. It's working out. That's the main thing. You have to work out. You have to exercise. And I'm not advocating that you don't work out, but what I'm learning is that most of it is what we're eating.
Yeah, that's a large part of it. I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Blue Zones. But that is a fantastic book in terms of people who are living to be over 100 and they have vitality and they don't exercise per se like going to the gym, but they move their body every day. Whether it's chopping wood or walking further, they move their body. And that's really the key, is just to get up and move in whatever way that you enjoy doing. So, that's key. Exactly.
Now, I am going to Dr. T. Campbell's Global Roots to the Total Health Conference in April.
Good.
Yeah, I'm going there because what I advocate and try to get people to do is to do something that will allow them to check in with their health. They don't have to go away to the Dominican Republic like I am for 7 days, but I always recommend that they do something to check in to see how they're doing from a health perspective. What do you say about that?
Absolutely. And to find support groups in your area. I mean, the whole, not necessarily, I want to say a support group, but a community in your area. And there's lots of plant-based communities popping up all over the United States. And I think that's really important, to find like-minded people who will support you in your goals. I know here, I'm in the Pacific Northwest in the Portland, Oregon area, and we have, Northwest Veg, which is a large organization. They do Veg Fest, they do community potlucks. And I think that's really important for people to assist you and help you on this journey. Because if you have a partner, I've done a lot of nutrition counseling with older men, and if their wives aren't on board, or if the wife's trying to do something, the husband isn't on board, if you have obstacles, it makes it so much harder for you to accomplish getting into that healthy lifestyle with people in your way. You not only have yourself in your way at times, but you have people in your way. So to find a like-minded community is so important. And I'm sure that you're in Chicago, so there's they do a big Veg Fest.
Big Veg Fest, Veg Mania. We have a raw food community, everything you could think of. There's also a vegan community where you go to different restaurants. And like you said, this exists in most cities. And I agree with the like-minded people, because going from traditional to plant-based is not something you can drag anybody into. They have to be inspired or else it doesn't work. Believe me, I used to try. With my family, friends, my clients. But I love that you're here and that this is just more encouragement and inspiration for people to look at a plant-based diet, especially if they become more mindful about what they eat. Then they'll be able to see, you'll be able to see, the audience will be able to see how what they're eating is impacting them on a mental, physical, and spiritual level, because it's everything.
Absolutely, yeah. So the second step I would say is to really be present, which we're talking about mindfulness. And what I mean by be present in this point is really to focus on sitting down at the table and eating, which means no TV, no computer, no phone, no internet, no driving. I don't know how many times I've seen people driving and eating at the same time.
Oh, Alison, I remember when I was really young, I'd pull up in McDonald's and get a hamburger, and this was lunch because I'm rushing off to pick my kids up or something, and I'm gobbling down a hamburger, and I didn't even taste it,
Yeah, yeah. You don't even remember eating it by the time you got home. You're like, did I have lunch? I think I did.
Because I ate so fast, I'm still hungry.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. And that's a way we cannot be present when we're eating because we're focusing on driving. And contrary to what corporate America says, multitasking is not a good thing. You just don't do things with the quality you can when you're doing one thing at a time. So when you're sitting down and eating, that means sitting and eating and not, focusing on others, especially driving. That's a very important thing you need to be focusing on. So yeah, it does make a big difference because, food is such an enjoyable thing in all cultures. I mean, people use dinner in some countries 3-4 hours for dinner. So and so no standing at the kitchen counter either. So it means sitting at the table or wherever you find pleasure sitting and eating. But yeah, no standing at the counter, which I've done numerous times. But yeah, you got to be conscientious of that.
What about how much we eat during the day? The commercials in our culture in America have inspired us to eat all day.
Yes, and those TV ads are the pictures are absolutely beautiful. The colors and here's this juicy whatever they're serving, and yes, and that actually takes us into number 3, which is the 80% rule. And I had referred earlier to the blue zones. And one of the things that they do in Okinawa is they say this phrase called harahachi bu. They say that before they eat, and what that means is it translates into stop eating when 80% full. So if you can stop eating when you're at 80% full, then you're not going to have a problem with overeating, weight gain, and all those things. So you have to cut yourself off, which then ties into eating slowly. Because when we eat too fast, again, then you leave yourself hungry and you'll eat more. So really to sit down, eat slowly, and eat it till you're about 80% full. And we know at Thanksgiving we're at 110% full because we always eat over at Thanksgiving. So to stop eating before you're feeling like you're totally full.
One thing, Alison, a plant-based diet has done for me is it's allowed me to look at food in a different way. Not eating to get full, that concept is not even in my head anymore. Getting full, because I'm so satisfied with just eating just a small amount of food. Food is everything in my, family. It brings us together. We celebrate around food. But for me, I actually had to find a new way or a new reason to come together with my family because the food was so huge for me. And it wasn't a quick thing, but it's like, okay, I really need to figure out how because I wasn't bringing like the regular dishes anymore, to support the family. And, everybody's not on board with the plant-based diet. So I really had to work a process in order to get beyond, feeling like I don't fit in with my family because I changed the way I eat or my friends. It's just a new way of thinking about food, which is so much better and supportive.
Yes, yes. And family members tend to at first be like, well, why aren't you eating meat? And, they give you the act of concern because they are. And
yes.
Then, maybe it makes them question what they're eating. It puts a little bit of guilt like, well, maybe I shouldn't be eating a hamburger because she's not eating it. So, yeah, it can stir up some family things. And unfortunately, as a dietitian, I can just use the science behind it and everybody just leaves me alone.
Oh, okay.
So nobody gives me a hard time about it. I say, what, here's the science. And, we're all about the science and nutrition. And so, yeah, I don't, and that's one thing I think with Dr. Campbell's course is then you have the science. So when the naysayers stand up and say, well, you need to eat, dairy, we've always eaten dairy. You need to eat meat for the protein or the, calcium for your bones. And you have the science to say, no, we don't need to survive on animal products because we can get our calcium from other sources and we can definitely get our protein from all plants. So yeah, it feels good to have that science behind it. So then the naysayers, they back down a little bit.
I think that's so important because there's so much misinformation. Oh my God. And like you said, to have that science is a lot more. People tend to kind of back off, but that resistance is deep. It's really strong.
Yeah, and the advertising is huge. I mean, how many fast food commercials do you see in line with the pharmaceutical companies? Every other commercial is either a hamburger or Prilosec or something. So, yeah, it goes hand in hand, and it's marketing is huge. Advertising is huge business.
And what do you say about the idea that we really don't pick our food? We're really not making individual choices about what we eat.
Yeah, I think we really make them blindly, especially when we're driving and we're absolutely starving. I mean, every corner has a fast food place with a drive-through, as you said, and it makes it so accessible and so easy to just zip into one of these fast food places, grab your hamburger, and eat it on the way. So, yeah, marketing is huge. I have a 14-year-old son, so of course, he sees all these commercials, whether it's the internet or the TV, and all these food commercials. They're everywhere, and it's funny because we don't see commercials necessarily for bananas and oranges and quinoa and stuff. Although we are seeing avocado commercials, but we don't see the healthy food commercials. It's all of the things that we shouldn't be eating. So, yeah, if they say if you have to advertise it, then it's probably not something you should be eating.
Exactly.
So.
and I think it's so misleading more than ever now because that word healthy and that word natural is just thrown around all over the place.
Yeah, even organic. I mean, that's
Yes.
one of the words,
Yes.
Is it 100% organic? Is it just by organic ingredients?
Exactly.
Yeah, the wording is scary. And like even with the food additives, there's a category that's called, generally recognized as safe, which are additives they can add, which are generally recognized as safe for us. But what does generally mean? Does it mean it's kind of safe? We don't really know. So, yeah, you've got to be your own advocate and your own detective. That's really what it comes down to.
Especially when our government allows non-foods, different chemicals to be a part of the food that, that's processed, that's made. For example, I was reading something about wood being a part of Parmesan cheese the other day. And the government is saying that this particular chemical or product can be a part of Parmesan cheese. It just has to be a small number, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, like arsenic in the rice.
Exactly. I don't know if a lot of people recognize or realize that our best interest is only covered if we're paying attention.
Yeah. I know it's scary. It really is. And, up here in the Pacific Northwest, we had the whole thing with the GMOs, the genetically modified, California, Oregon, Washington. And, we have a right to know what's in our food. And it came up for a vote and it didn't pass in any of the 3 states, and it's like, people, you need to know what you're eating.
And even if the government doesn't pass it, and this is just coming from me, I feel if we all pay attention, each individual person, then the collective can make the change.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's so much money, there's so many lobbies, it's almost impossible to get things done for the benefit of health, because there's probably not a whole lot of money in healthy food.
Yeah. And then the food policy and the government and the things that the lobbyists and and my thoughts are, we went up a bit against big tobacco and we won that battle. I'd like to think we won that battle. And someday I think if we go up against the big food manufacturers, hopefully we'll win that battle. I'd love to see that in my lifetime, and just work on letting people just know that this is not the safe way to go with some of these big manufacturers.
I feel it's happening right now when I look at people who are, they're starting to garden, they're starting to grow their own food. They're breaking the law because they have a garden in their front yard. You start to really look at all the roadblocks to just being self-sufficient. And it's just so interesting that there used to be a lot of food deserts when Michelle Obama first started her food initiative. But fast forward, there are vans that go to neighborhoods that don't necessarily have vegetables and fruits. You know, you can go on the van and in the mobile unit to find your vegetables. There are city gardens now. So I feel a lot's being done and headed that way. We have a whole lot of work to do, but I do feel that things are slowly changing. It's in the air. It's in the air.
Yes. Yes, and exactly. And if we have like people such as yourself, advocates out there, I mean, that's going to create those ripples of change, and that's really important. And you talk about food deserts, and really there are more. I think double the amount of fast food restaurants in lower income neighborhoods than there are in more affluent neighborhoods.
Oh my goodness!
Getting these fresh fruits and vegetables into these communities. I mean, these people want to be healthy just as we are. We need to bring that to them and not be charging them an arm and a leg for organic apples when it's easier to go get a Big Mac. So. Yeah, that's an area that I feel very passionate about is getting into those food deserts and really, just helping those people so much.
And getting in those classrooms like you do, teaching what good health is and what the science really is, what the China study's all about. It's educating everyday people on what they're eating and why they're eating certain things. I think it's so important. And part of what I do also is education, because the marketing just grays out everything. It just grays out everything. So I feel part of what I advocate is to help people to know that they have all the tools inside of them to make any change that they need to, and changes that are supportive to their overall good.
Yeah, absolutely. You do such good work. And like I said, with that ripple effect, if we just need to just touch one or two people, it just ripples out into the world, and so important.
Yes, it is. Did we get through all the steps?
I think so. I think the only one that I was missing was what I like to call is stimulate your senses.
Okay.
And we talked a little bit about it, which is notice the taste of the food, the smell of the food, the texture, the color. And it's oftentimes in yoga and meditation, when you close your eyes, your body tends to feel greater sensations. So I think that works the same with food. I mean, if you're sitting at the table alone and you feel comfortable chewing something and closing your eyes at the same time and really tasting what does that oregano taste like, or the garlic, or the cinnamon that's in your food, to really be present with it. And keep in mind, color is another important piece. We always say eat the rainbow, right? All the nutrients. So when you look at fruits and vegetables and you see all those different colors, that's the phytonutrients in them that are going to give you the greatest health benefit. And that's why we say eat the rainbow, because you have the nightshades, you have the lighter shades, the carotenoids, you have all these different colors that give your body, it works synergistically basically. So all these phytonutrients work together to give you the greatest impact on wellness.
And you really don't taste your food until you get past the traditional American diet, because I can tell you what I tasted for most of my life was, salt, pepper, and sugar. So once you get past that, and once I evolved into a plant-based diet, I really felt that I was tasting my food for the first time. I was like a little kid who had never had a tasty vegetable before. And I started tasting different flavors, and I really felt that I didn't experience this until I started eating plant-based, because I no longer needed to put the salt and pepper on my food. I could just taste the different flavorful vegetables.
Yeah. They say your taste buds actually change when you go to plant-based, and that's definitely a testament that a lot of people have given. And I think, growing up, we used to have broccoli, and then you put cheese sauce all over your broccoli, and we would bury the taste of all these healthy vegetables by putting all the salt and, sugar and pepper and all these different additives on top of it. So yeah, you do really taste it more.
And even today, you can go into a restaurant and ask for a black bean burger, and you can get the burger, and it's so saturated with cheese as if you really didn't want the burger. You need the cheese on top of it to have it washed in cheese that you don't, the restaurants are getting better, but there's still a lot to learn. There's still a lot to learn. I really want to thank you for being here and talking to us about being mindful and slowing down and tasting our food and really reading labels and just really focusing and paying attention on what we're eating, because at the end of the day, that is going to support our highest good in terms of slowing down and really looking at our life in a high quality way. So I really want to thank you, Alison, for being here. And educating us on mindful eating.
You're welcome, Diane. And I want to thank you, too, for just doing all the good work that you're doing out there in the world. It's just so important to have advocates and people such as yourself in the field. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals. This podcast is sponsored by DianeRandallConsults.com. If you like this show, the best way to support it is by leaving 5-star feedback on iTunes. And please, feel free to email your questions, comments, and suggestions to feedback@DianeRandallConsults.com. Until next week, namaste.